There are moments that divide history, moments where words pierce deeper than weapons, where silence breaks under the weight of truth, and a voice, once ordinary, ignites something extraordinary in the hearts of millions. A speech that was never meant to go viral, a speech that came from pain, from passion, from an urgency too strong to silence. It wasn't delivered from a throne or behind a podium of power. It was spoken by someone who had lived what they preached, who had felt the sting of failure, the isolation of doubt, and the slow ache of being misunderstood. Not just his literal voice, but the belief that he had anything worth saying. He watched others speak and command attention. He admired them, even envied them. David couldn't hold it in anymore. The words were building in him, not to impress, but to release. Just a local gathering meant to encourage people to keep going through hard times. David hesitated. He wasn't a professional speaker, just a microphone and a message that had lived in his soul for years. He looked out at the crowd, tired faces, uncertain eyes, people who had heard it all before and were bracing. He didn't have a polished resume, but something told him this was the moment. Not for fame, not for applause, but for purpose. A story of loss, of failure, of a time when he wanted to give up. Not to inspire pity, but to build a bridge. He told them what it felt like to fail publicly, because that question wasn't just his, it was theirs too. How many in that room had felt stuck at the bottom? How many had mistaken pain for punishment, when it might have been preparation? To lose everything, to be told, directly or indirectly, that you would never recover. He spoke of the night he sat alone on a park bench, wondering if his life mattered to anyone. Not to persuade, but to reveal. He started speaking, first in whispers, then in conversations, then to small groups. The words weren't fancy, but they were real. People leaned in not because he was famous, but because he was honest. But deep down, he didn't think he belonged on any stage. He thought his past disqualified him, that his scars made him unfit to inspire, that without it he would have never been forced to ask the most important question of his life. What if the lowest moment of your life is actually your foundation? It wasn't the loudest speech, nor the most polished, but in its raw honesty and powerful clarity, it woke people up. He grew up in a place where dreams were considered distractions, where survival came before every time he tried to reach beyond his circumstances, something pulled him back. Poverty, responsibility, fear. He learned to keep his head down, to move quietly through the world, until one day, quiet wasn't enough. It stirred something buried beneath routine and fear. It sparked movements, changed minds, and gave people permission to believe again. This is the story of that speech. But before we get to that moment, we need to understand the road that led there. It began, as most stories do, in silence. The speaker, let's call him David, was not born a leader. In fact, he struggled with his voice for much of his life. Life didn't hand David a microphone. It handed him adversity. It happened slowly. A build-up of years of watching people hurt, watching opportunities slip away, watching potential get buried under shame and silence. Then came the invitation, a community event, nothing big. He stood up that day in front of maybe 200 people. Nervous, heart pounding, hands shaking, no teleprompter, no spotlight. But that's not what they got. He began with a story. And then, the turning point. David said something no one expected. He told them he was grateful for that night. You could hear the room shift. People sat up, some held their breath. David went on, not with shallow positivity, but with deep truths. He challenged people to stop waiting for the perfect time, to stop waiting to be perfect. He reminded them that greatness doesn't start when others believe in you. It starts when you believe in yourself enough to show up. Imperfect and He looked straight into the eyes of his audience and said, "You are not broken. You are becoming." He paused, letting that sink in. What made the speech unforgettable wasn't the language, it was the courage. It was the way David laid his life bare, not as a hero, but as a mirror. He talked about fear, how it doesn't disappear, but can be walked through. He spoke about rejection, how it doesn't mean you're worthless, just that you're trying. He shared how he had sent over 100 job applications and never got a call back. But because he did that honestly, his words rippled further than he could have imagined. He kept showing up at small events, schools, shelters. He believed that if your words are powerful enough to reach millions, they're still powerful enough to reach one more. People in different countries wrote letters saying they chose not to end their life because of that speech. Not the performance, but the presence. He didn't speak to impress, he spoke to connect, to heal, to remind people of what they already carried inside, but had forgotten how to access. Others said it gave them the courage to start a new chapter, to rebuild relationships, to chase long-forgotten dreams. What if I already gave up? A willingness to show your scars and stand in your truth. And in doing so, it awakened hearts all over the world. The world doesn't need more polished speakers. It needs more brave voices. Remember this, somewhere, someone is waiting for the exact message only you can deliver. Somewhere, someone is one truth away from holding on just a little longer. Somewhere a voice like yours can change everything. What started as a local moment became a global movement, Millions watched it, shared it, quoted it, not because it was flashy, but because it was real, because it didn't talk at people, it spoke with them. How he had started 3 businesses that all failed, how he had been told to settle for less, but he also told them how none of those failures defined him, because he refused to stop. By now, people were crying, not because it was sad, but because they felt seen, validated, reminded of their own worth. One moment stood out most. A young man in the back, probably no older than 20, stood up and asked. David walked off the stage. No drama, just walked straight to him, took the mic and said, "Then today is your comeback." Because giving up doesn't mean you're done. It just means you're tired. And tired people can rest, but they can also rise. Those words broke the room. The speech went viral. Someone had recorded it on their phone and posted it online. David never set out to change the world. He just wanted to change one heart. The impact was undeniable, but David remained grounded. What made his speech so transformative was not the style, but the substance. And maybe that's the real lesson, that you don't need a perfect life to speak powerfully. You don't need permission to be a light. What you need is honesty. Today, David's speech is studied, shared, and remembered, not because it came from a stage, but because it came from the heart. So the next time you wonder if your words matter, because one speech, given at the right moment, with the right heart, can echo through generations. And it will again.